So this will be a first pass at a backstory. Now looking at slide 050, when I was younger in my education years and early career, I was driven by a feeling of not really understanding things. Actually, that is what has pushed me through getting a deeper understanding. Is that when I studied the courses in college, I would, long after I did well enough to do, to pass the test, do well on the tests and the projects and all that, I had this lingering feeling that I just really didn't understand it, didn't get it. And that's appropriate for a lot of the things that we learn. They come from a long history of stuff that we just don't get. We just learn the procedures and we learn how to use the tools, and but we don't really learn the depth that they come from. Well, I loved geometry, but I just tolerated algebraic equations. I don't like algebra, really. Don't trust it. It's misleading. It can fool you. And I understood through visual animation. And I can illustrate that by just imagine this. Imagine a football. Imagine throwing it and it's spinning in the air, spiraling in the air, going down the field, and somebody catching it. And imagine it where it's like you see it on TV. These excellent quarterbacks where both of them are running and they quickly throw it, it spirals down in this arc and the guy catches it. Well, that's animation. That's visual animation. To understand that, try to write the equations for that. And for me, if I were to have to write the equations for that, it would be impossible without first visually imagining that football spinning. So that's the way it's always been for me. Algebra is just a dirty little thing you have to do to get things proven. So there was for me, always, well, not always, but until I really found my turf in Toronto and found that, okay, I can relax here. I had the persistent undercurrent feelings of, not really getting it like others do. I thought, okay, other people understand this, but I really don't. That gives you a feeling about not being good enough or being an unexposed fake. You have these nightmares of being discovered and rejected. So the point is that, a lot of us feel like we don't really get it. We can't understand this stuff. It's too complicated. And other people do. So just acknowledging that that's where I came from. That's where this stuff came from. Then the next slide we'll say more about that. Now in image 055, out of that feeling of not understanding, these were the successful career patterns that emerged for me. These are the kind of questions I ask. Why am I not understanding this, whatever X? And why isn't it working well? Could it be working better? Why are people not using it? Is there something that would work better than this? So my approach was always toward finding what was wrong, what it was I didn't understand, rather than building on my understanding. Instead of building layers, discovering layers on top of what I knew, I was always looking beneath, trying to find what it was that I didn't get before. Or didn't understand about whatever it was I was working on. And that ended up being a very successful strategy. I didn't intend it to be that way, but I found it to be successful, and it came from that earlier feeling of not understanding and being driven by trying to go deeper to really understand whatever it is you're working with. So in slide 60, I want to carry that idea through my career, and that is that mode of thinking where I didn't quite get it and pushing hard to go deeper, trying to understand why things don't work. My career at the University of Toronto, I was very successful, but I spent tens of thousands of hours working with abstract spaces, mathematics. From that point of view, what's wrong with these things? And why aren't people in industry using this? My ambition was to find things that were mathematical and bring them to industry. And I really got into abstract spaces. And the irony is, if you look at the middle on the right, between the two boxes where it says got it, finally I learned why the math I had invested so much in would not ever work well in industry. Now that was a shock. That's what I discovered through going deeper, is that, it's weak at the bottom. It's irreparably weak at the bottom. And so that's when, even though I got tenure at the university, that feeling of, wow, I didn't understand this stuff and it's never going to work. Now that I do, I see it's never going to work. So I moved to industry after that. I left the university, and then I've got another 10,000 hours down in the roots of mathematics. That abstract system spaces is up in the top. And I spent tens of thousands of hours using the roots of mathematics, sets and relations, in industrial work again. And the concept was always, what's wrong with this piece of equipment? Why isn't it working right? Could it be working better? Find out where it's not running and understand why, where it's not running right and understand why. So I spent a great deal of time both high in the branches of mathematics and physics, trying to understand what's wrong there, and then another 10,000 hours using what's in the roots of math to understand what's wrong, why things aren't working right in industrial production. So that was my career. It continued with that. What am I not understanding here? That was the constant theme for me. Now in Image 65, we make a link from going through the university experience to this, which is this offer that I'll be making. Is that back then, even in my prime of at the university and going through industry, I developed a don't care attitude about the things that I didn't get about physics. And that physics was also in my field of electrical engineering, because that deals with magnetic waves and so forth, electromagnetic waves. I could never get that. Waves traveling through empty space, that just doesn't make any sense. And the recipes, the algebraic equations and so forth, fit that idea that waves travel through empty space, but that makes no sense at all, because space is supposed to be empty, and waves travel through a medium like water or air. Everybody acknowledges that, but it's like, oh well, don't worry about that, they work. And that's the attitude. The equations work, so learn them, use them, that's the only important thing. But I just didn't get it. And the special relativity of Einstein, no, it doesn't make any sense at all. And in Toronto, you see that yellow blurb, Toronto Professor Ian McCausland. Because Professor McCausland and I were colleagues, and we would have tea together, I'd have coffee. He ended up writing, he told me about the work he was doing then, and there are 2 books there you see, but the main thing is they were really trying to get some questions answered about Einstein's special relativity. And these people were in the academic community, but the written community of physics, the publication guardians, just blocked any serious questions about that work. And so there's always been this question, and that stuff, not only does it not make sense, but also the physics community puts this border against questioning anything about that. So for a long time, and through that interaction with McCausland, and at my very prime, I tried my best to understand all of that stuff, and I just couldn't. And so I just gave up. Look, I don't care about that anymore. And look where we are. I'm back. I found myself, you'll see that I ended up back thinking, why do I not understand this and what's wrong here, kind of thing. And that I'll tell you about that. So now in slide 70, remember I'm telling you what this backstory is going to say. So, I've already told you some of this in earlier videos, but now we're talking about what the backstory will be. So at 57, my interest shifted toward family and people. And, I've told the story before about that right relations episode in church where it hit me, wow, all that 10,000 hours in industry using relations actually carries over to social things. So I made this jump from father science to mother sense. And the important thing is those are 2 different missions. I really learned something started to gel there. The business of science and engineering, which was my career my whole life before, That's all about out there measurement, prediction, and control. And here I had jumped into social work, which is pretty much a mission of in-here sensation, perception, choice. Social work is concerned very much with people's in-here feelings and their self-talk, their attitudes, their ability to relate to other people, and that kind of thing. So this was a big shift that happened that opened the door to this kind of work. I'll put my face in here again now because we're going to talk about something that I think is really touchy in this work, and that is, look, I'm claiming to have 6 new things here, and that's pretty outlandish, really. You think, what, really? 6 new things in physics and mathematics? And so, the idea seems, what emerges is the idea, wait a minute, you're saying physics and mathematics are wrong? Could they, are you crazy? All of that, all of those expertise, all back there, they're wrong. This is the thing that must be wrong. That seems like the reaction that I inside I feel like people will have. So this next slide is a beginning of an idea of how to turn that so that they see, oh yeah, okay, you're not saying that physics is wrong. You're saying something else.